Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for this short technical delay. We're going to be heading directly into ban picks between Liyab. It's the first game of day 3 right here. And right off the bat, I do want to talk about the roster changes for Liyab. They're starting both Kanji and Xyliath. In our opinion, they're 2 best players, but Kanji has gone into the top lane. So we can expect some real chemical changes here coming out from the blue side.
Yeah, looking to just put as much mechanical power into their roster as possible. We'll see if it ends up being Kanji in that top lane. Of course, when you do put 2 mid laners, I'd imagine that a lot of the pools are going to be relatively shared. So it really just comes down to who's most comfortable going into each of these matchups rather than, all right, who's more comfortable going into top lane. It's like, well, all right, which matchup do you want?
I love that point you're making, because if you look at BME Esports bans, they've taken 3 flexes straight off the table, probably very aware of the flex potential that Kanji and Xyliath have. Liyab are going to go for the Viego first pick, very, very popular on this patch. BME Esports, they do have a lot of champions still up. Set, Gwen, Diana, they can go anywhere with this draft so far. They're going to be taking up the Xin Zhao most likely. It is going to get locked in, while Gwen most likely into the top side.
Yeah, and one of the big things coming into this game I was really looking for from the side of Boom was what were their draft changes on this red side, because on blue side you saw they went for Diana, Vladimir. That was pretty much it. And this time around, I want to see what does Ruby have next in his pool, because I'm pretty sure it's probably not just blind picks Vladimir. There has to be something else. If it's 3 Vlad games in a row, I've got questions, Clement.
Ruby, be yourself. Trust in the Vladimir. Actually, I hope it's not a Vladimir. We actually had a video yesterday from Nemesis and LS explaining why Vladimir is such a terrible pick. But, you know, we'll find out soon. We'll find out soon. I wouldn't be terribly surprised, but for their sake, it really did not work yesterday versus J-Team. On the other hand, Liyab going to go for the Lulu. Another flex coming out. This could go into all different sort of lanes here. I've seen it in the mid. I've seen it in support. BME Esports going to take out Varus. Looks like they're going to be clamping down on Dawn's champion pool so far. See what they go next. And Liyab have to ban out either the support or the mid lane.
Support most likely will be the targets. In a couple of situations, you can also play Gwen in the mid lane. There's just really, depending on the matchup, I would say more towards those melee matchups like a Silas or a Viego. You're a little bit more comfortable in tossing it there. And for Liyab, they go ahead and take away the LeBlanc. So apparently, you know, teams, while LeBlanc hasn't had much success, still fearing the pick quite a bit.
It's a pretty interesting ban here. Usually when you have the Lulu flex, you don't try to ban out the LeBlanc, so I guess that Lulu's probably going somewhere else. We do have Ziggs on the other side being banned away from Dawn. Another champion that I feel like was actually the biggest beneficiary of the mage item discounts coming in here. And we're going to have BME Esports with the 4th pick. Kazakhs seem like a bit of a stretch, and indeed it is going to be the Leona.
So Pop getting himself the Leona here. Ezreal Leona, not exactly a lane with a lot of synergy, but you do have a couple of openings where you do have a high amount of burst because of that Leona passive, combined with how many spells you can toss out as Ezreal. But more than likely, you're looking for Pop to make these early roams into that top half of the map. And for Liyab, they've gone ahead, locked in the Kalista, which means that this Lulu most likely won't go into that bottom lane pair with it. And Aiden, it looks like he gets his choice of champions, and right now he's hovering and locking in that Nautilus.
I just love the coach gestures behind Liyab right there. I believe that was TG's hands, but he was like patting Dawn on the back, telling him, you can do it, lock it in, this is the champion. But you can definitely see that the coaches were very, very emotional about these ban pick phases. We do have Nautilus around out, and Ruby is going to give us another mage. Ruby, be yourself. Stay true. Vladimir is still open. Okay. Cassio is fine as well. That's perfectly fine. It's actually a very good matchup into the Lulu, so Pop, with a smile on his face, is like, Ruby, are you sure about this pick? You sure? Okay, I'll lock it in.
Yeah, and I mean, that's really just kind of a trust fall there, where Ruby gives you a pick, and you just have to hope that Ruby knows what he's doing here. And yeah, I do like the Cassio into the Lulu, while Lulu can do a little bit to you early on. The Cassio just turns on that Lulu so easily. And that being said, for the Lulu pick's not for lane. It's about empowering this Olaf to run rampant and win out these skirmish duels against that Xin Zhao.
Yeah, I think that's the case as well. You definitely don't think of like a Juggernaut comp with Callista, so I think Olaf might be the better target here for most of the attack speed buffs and the overgrowth coming in, like you were mentioning. So looking at both sides of these compositions, like I really want to get your take. Like, what are each side really trying to play for right here? These are not your usual comps on 11.13.
Yeah, I mean, for Liyab, it's very clear. They want to play that 2v2 with the Lulu and the Olaf. The Lulu is going to have much better shove against the Cassio. Cassio has to expend a lot of mana just to try and match that push against the Lulu. So you're going to be able to get a lot of mid priority, and it's all about what you do with that mid priority. I'm going to say they're going to use that and try and cash it in bot side against this Leona and just try and punish Leona if she ever goes aggressive here. But one of the things I've seen is this bot lane from Liyab, they've really gotten a lot more aggressive. So I want to see that trend continue here.
It's kind of the YOLO attitude we get from Dawn. Definitely try to make the most out of every one of his trips outside of the fountain. We're going to be heading on to the Rift. Looks like a standard spread. Never mind. A Liyab with the cheese immediately. I love this when you have an Olaf and you have that extra slow from Lulu. But unfortunately, Boom Esports are not going to be waiting for them. It looks like they're going to transition their push even further into the enemy jungle. Ezreal holding down the lane right here. Taking a look at the runes here. Oh, it's been a while since we've seen Cassio runes. Can you walk me through these?
Yeah, it looks like she's going for the phase rush, which of course a little bit outdated as far as meta runes go, just because of how much it has been nerfed. But it's still her most optimal rune, unless if you have the opportunity to go for something like a Conqueror. But because of how much sticking power is available onto Liyab, you do want that extra mobility to be able to try and reposition yourself in these fights with the phase rush. So it makes sense here. We'll see how much use she does get out of it in some of these team fights, but plenty of slows to get around.
Ruby outdated, Boom Esports outdrafted, Liyab activated? Maybe? Question mark? Okay, we'll see what actually happens here. But I agree with you. This is definitely not what we expect. Phase rush nerfs were huge and really decimated the mage pool. Ruby's pretty much the only one that's been pulling out these champions, so we'll see if his mastery on his particular champion pool can pull him through, but he will have a pretty decent laning phase against Aliath early on. And we do have mirror jungle start, so both of these junglers should be expected to land in the bottom side of the map. And, you know, looking at the top lane, we do have a lot of aggression coming out from Rocky straight off the bat. A little bit of zone in coming there. And in the bot lane, Dawn plus Aiden seem to be winning out early on the push as well.
Yeah, Dawn, of course, just making sure to use as much of that aggression as possible, has the advantage against Ezreal as far as early game champions go, and it does leave them possibly exposed for one or two camps here where Alex can gank bot lane if they aren't weary of it. And I mean, topside, Rocky is just able to get the early shove. He's got a little bit more wave push here with the scissors, and for Kanji, he's still perfectly comfortable in this lane. One thing to note is the fact that Rocky, he's gone for the ghost rather than the ignite. I would say this is a much better scaling option, being able to then team fight with it, being able to stick to targets in the 1v1 later on in the game as well. So I would say it's better in most facets of the game, but does leave you exposed in some of these 1v1 situations because Kanji does have ignite.
Yeah, most definitely a better team fighting rune than the solo lane rune. I do want to mention something very interesting pathing coming out from Alex, and a good prediction coming out from Dodoy. They actually pinged Alex's path out without vision, so pretty impressed on both sides here. Alex took red, cleared out his bottom side, and then went back to the Raptors and the Krug. So what is he trying to achieve here?
Yeah, it's definitely not the most efficient pathing there, but given the fact that his bot lane just had absolutely no control of that bot wave, it makes a lot of sense, right? You go bot and then Scuttle spawns and decides that, well, I don't want to really try and force a gank into the bot lane. I'm going to look for Scuttle instead, but I can't get bot Scuttle because Liyab, well, they're going to be able to make that faster rotation with their bot 2v2, so he opts for that top side instead. It does mean that it's going to have a lot of wasted time, and that also means Dodoy should be able to really accumulate an advantage here.
Dodoy definitely with the much more normal and I would say efficient pathing here, just straight clear from top to bottom side once more. And, you know, I think it does show that Alex did a pretty good job of making sure Rocky stays ahead in his lane. He was always there to support the push. We got the teleports both coming down here. And so far, Xyliath has actually, in my opinion, been overperforming in this lane. You know, Cassio not really getting that CS or trade lead over, and we're seeing Xyliath actually being able to poke his head into the enemy jungle and drop some deep wards. They already pinged out the last Raptor camp exactly when Alex was doing it. They're able to keep tabs on him once again as he swings towards his top side.
Yeah, and it's really after this first back that Ruby will be a little bit more empowered to try and look for trades, having that extra mana. As Dawn, he goes aggressive, gets a nice little trade against Wako, but it's going to be Dodoy rotating over for this Inferno Dragon. Xyliath even investing in the teleport just to get back to lane faster, and they'll be able to secure themselves first dragon.
This is absolutely beautiful from Liyab. The TP to make sure Alex can't get into the river, the trade on the bottom side at the same time, and now they're going to go for a big one. Pop losing about 300 HP in that one. Dawn misses the Q, but still gets a massive rend. And thumbs up from Aiden. I like the swag coming out from Liyab, just layering down the hurt. And so far, the jungle pathing and the objective game have been stronger on Liyab's side. You see Alex paying a visit to Rocky, but Kanji's going to stay very, very safe there. His lane is not in a great position, though. And it's going to get zoned out just a little bit here. Let's see how he plays this one out.
Yeah, and Kanji showing a little bit of...
Ooh, the trade goes down. Ignite tick on. Pop is burning down, and Dawn finishes off the kill with the flash in. Great 2v2 coming in from Liyab. Wako still has the flash. He's looking in for the kill, but he is facing a 3v1. Dawn is going to try and push this wave in. Wako very healthy, though, and Aiden backs out. Ren does come down, but Olaf, Dodoy has already finished the back, so that would be no further aggression.
Yeah, just not enough mana on Dawn to try and force that dive afterwards, but definitely a worthwhile trade to get themselves a kill.
Oh, the flash into the petrifying gaze, but he turns back a little too early, and Xyliath able to make it out. Cool guys don't look at explosions, but you got to wait for the fuse to actually detonate.
Yeah, but now Dodoy, he's going to look for Alex here, but Pop, he's right there.
Dodoy walks into a bit of a trap, but he still has Ragnarok, so he's actually incredibly safe right here. And that was a bit of a miss from Ruby. Definitely walks away too early, and Rocky gives him the thumbs down. Okay, that probably wasn't for Ruby, but he flashes the emote regardless.
Yeah, and Xyliath, I mean, Ruby kind of forgot what Lulu does there. And Lulu just has one of the safest laning phases because of how many tools she can use to protect herself there. And she uses one of her many tools in that instance. Ruby has to invest a flash as well. So look for Dodoy to try and make a visit into that mid lane before that ultimate timer comes up onto Ruby. And it should cash in to a pretty easy kill. Either that, or they can just really relentlessly invade Alex's jungle here.
I gotta love this play from Liyab. They know Cassio, no flash, no ult, instantly turn towards the Herald. But once again, we'll could be seeing a bit of an over-rotation here as bot lane is wide open. Let's see how many turret plates BME Esports can trade back for that Herald. It looks like they have an opportunity for a 4v2 dive as Ruby with the Petrifying Gaze almost up and Alex are both heading towards the bottom side. Ooh, Liyab's bot lane definitely in a lot of danger right here. Ruby makes it to the Krug brush. Let's see if Liyab has the premonition. Like you said, ooh, True Shot Barrage actually doesn't land, so Liyab still have a fighting chance, but this will be a 4v2. The wave is not synced perfectly. They do get a standard engage, and they find Wako right off the bat! 4v2, and they trade two right back! Don't they get out of here? Oh my god! This is disaster for BME Esports. They have to flash onto Don. Don finally does fall, but that was a massive outplay from Don and Aiden. Well done, boys!
Liyab, this bot lane is just absolutely performing so far this split. You've seen the relentless aggression come out here, but then here the hook is perfect. Gets him while turret aggro is still on him. That means that turret ramping is just continuing through the entire dive. That also means Ruby, he gets the full brunt of that turret shot and he goes down. 2-for-2 trade. That's the best you can ask for if you are Don and Aiden there. And what a move. That means they don't lose too much here. They go 2-for-2. They get turret plates in that mid lane and the gold, very, very negligible when it comes to lead.
Still a small lead from BME Esports. I'm a little bit surprised by that, but that was still a huge play. I do want to tell our audience that Liyab did not find their first win in spring until the second round. But right now, it looks like they do have a pretty good fighting chance. And man, that play was... I have to say, Wako did kind of throw that play. Like, Liyab showed their jungle. Liyab was not even trying to contest at that point. But Wako definitely provided them an out. And Aiden was there to catch it.
Yeah, and I mean, that said, for the side of BME Esports, you're seeing the skill that they do have still, right? Because they're still holding pretty solid CS leads in that top lane and also in this AD carry role. And for Alex, he's keeping up in CS against an Olaf, which is also a feat in itself. And now they've got position on this dragon, and with that miasma, that's going to prevent them from rushing in.
Lulu trying to find the angle onto Ruby, but Ruby opens straight back up. Oh, the Ragnarok goes straight in. Cassiopeia falls already. Wako into the fray, but we have Kanji on the other side. Can he get the reset? One down, one Heartbreaker strike. He's looking for more. He's going to get more. Another Heartbreaker. That's going to be 3 kills over to the mid laner. Transition into top lane, and Wako has to walk away. Kanji's still looking for more, though. Wako is going to eat the stun to the face, has to flash out. And Kanji shows his top lane chop. This feels like another Xiaohu in the making.
The mechanics, once he leaves out of that top lane, joins into this fight, you can definitely see why he got inserted into the lineup up in that top lane. Not super familiar with the lane itself, but you get to showcase your prowess on a champion like this Viego, especially in team fights. So finds that first reset and it's off to the races. Gets a second and a third, and even puts a whole lot of hurt onto Wako right afterwards. And it was really just, while Boom had a decent setup there with the miasma preventing the engage, but Ruby just steps a little bit too far forward without his flash, and he gets punished massively.
Only gets a petrifying gaze, I believe, on one target there, as well as he has the Olaf right in front of him to deal with. That was a bit unfortunate, but Kanji definitely the hero right there. He got 4 Heartbreakers in one team fight, and also the flash on the exit onto Wako. Ruby once again trying to get the petrifying gaze. This is a 3v2 fight behind the tower coming in, and Dodoy stands his ground, trades one back. Alex still looking for more, but Xyliath is safely underneath his own tower. And again, Boom Esports aggression not rewarded.
Boom Esports still pedal to the metal here. They're trying to throw resources back into Ruby, but in that moment in time, the counter gank was there from Liyab. Really well done coming in from Dodoy. And yes, you trade 1 for 1, but then you compare, like, this Casio just has been absolutely put in the dirt so far. Yes, he's keeping up in CS, but Ruby dying 3 times now is just not having his game. And, you know, Ruby's definitely one of those players that can easily tilt out of a game too. So this focus, we have to really keep watch in these upcoming team fights if he ends up blundering in his positioning because of how much focus he has been in this game.
Definitely true there. And talking about that play, Rocky did go down to join that 3v2, and that means that Kanji actually took 2 plates on the top side. So the biggest benefactor there, definitely Kanji being left alone, and we see him already with the Divine Sunder heading towards the Blade of the Ruin King. Very accelerated in this build. And do you feel that tingling sensation? Because I'm feeling it. I think we got some Liyab hope, my boys. I feel that Filipino pride rising.
Yeah, it's definitely there, as once again, they try and throw resources at Ruby. It's not going to come to fruition, though, and as a result, Liyab, they get themselves a free Rift Herald, and they have the opportunity to snowball one of these side lane turrets. They can get even more gold into Kanji and really propel him to carry this game all the way through. And boy, is it looking good for the boys in blue.
Ruby is actually spotted here on his way over, and you can see Xyliath keeping really safe there. I do want to point out that Liyab, this was actually a proactive trade on their side. They're the ones that actually moved their bottom lane duo towards the mid. So this trade was, it really wasn't on Boom Esports' turn. Boom Esports had to pick up what they were given. And I think Liyab definitely made the right decision right here. Opens up the entire map. There's very long side lanes with the Fed Diego running around. It just looks so good. I don't know what has happened with Liyab, but hands down, this is the best game that we've seen from them in this summer split.
Yeah, and you've kind of seen a couple of signs throughout the previous games, right? Where they go for a lot of aggression, especially in that bot side, but then they also have these really well-timed or well-thought-out plays. They just don't necessarily adapt to the situation. Like yesterday, they invaded red, or the second red buff, right? But
the engage goes on. Dodoy finds a target. They're going to open up directly onto Bob. He has to flash out. Dodoy continues. Ruby dead once more. And Alex follows. Heartbreaker on across the entire team. Kanji gets to get the reset. And Liyab rout Boom Esports in the mid lane for an open objective.
That's going to land them a second dragon. They're well underway to get themselves that mountain soul now. 2 dragons in. And is it time to get excited? Is it time to get excited, Clement?
I'm excited. I don't know if you're excited. Look, I expect the worst, but I will hope for the best, okay? I am a Liyab fan. Right here, right now, trust. It's gonna happen. And I also want to point out that Dodo has been playing out of his mind. He actually chopped down Ruby before the petrifying gaze even came out. It was goodbye, snaky girl. Goodbye.
Yeah, and once again we see Ruby going to his really toolkit here. This time, once again, not really paying off. You saw in yesterday's game with the Vladimir. The first Vladimir game, great. The second one, not as great, and that's because he wasn't given that big pop-off fight. And so far in this game, he's definitely not gotten a pop-off fight. He's 0-4-3, hasn't had much impact at all. Does at least have his first completed item, but he needs a lot more to truly carry because he only has one flash. The phase rush, not enough, it looks like, to get him really kiting around these fights.
Well, but Kanji could run into a setup here. He's thinking about it. It's like, should I poke out my head? Oh, but Kanji, even though he's new to the top lane, being very, very careful. And unfortunately for Ruby and Alex, their Death Brush doesn't come to fruition. Really good warding coming out from Boom Esports. They have double pinks onto the top side. The Liyab are going to make their mark on the map right now. Dodoy pushing forward with this Herald intact. And it seems like they're going to go straight for the mid lane. Maybe. In the meantime, Gwen getting some free time on her own. Very, very quiet game from Rocky so far, though. Really hasn't been able to find those sort of the flanks that we expect from Gwen. You know, Gwen very powerful in the enemy formation. Liyab is going to drop that Herald down directly mid, and Boom Esports have to answer.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's only really this Rip Curl to try and answer. There's not really positioning onto a dragon that you're going to be able to take advantage with this because Drake still has 3 minutes before it actually spawns. So it's just going to be a charge there for Liyab. Not the best play, but it's still something. And for Boom, it's about trying to funnel gold. It's just trying to get Rocky into a position. He's almost to that Nashor's Tooth now. He has the Riftmaker completed, but I mean, in comparison, you're looking at Kanji. He's almost at that second item completion here. So he's in a much better spot in the 1v1. And given that he does have Ignite, still holds that slight edge when it comes to that exclusive 1v1 duel.
Did you see that smile on Xyliath? I don't think I've ever seen that man smile. But he was laughing. I saw his teeth. You can feel that the spirits are being lifted on Liyab. They are looking at a bright future. I might be jinxing this way too much, but I honestly feel like this has been their best chance in quite a long time. They were 1 win, 17 losses in spring. So, you know, it hasn't exactly been a great time for Philippine fans. But this game has brought me hope, and I'll be honest, I want to toot my own horn a little bit. I have been asking Liyab to please just let their two best players, Xyliath and Kanji, be on the Rift at the same time, and they have finally done it. You know, I've been saying this ever since week 4, since Kanji came back into the roster. Why do you have to pick? Why go left or choose right? Why not both? You know? You can have both of them. And the meta has finally came around where they can definitely do it.
And now that these flex picks really just are dominating, and you're going to be able to play both of, or a lot of them in both the mid and top lane roles, that's where you're going to really flourish here when you have just the highlight of your team being these solo lanes. And now Kanji just goes to town, has the completed Blade of the Rune King, which means that he's a little bit out of control. So that's a lot of power individually, but also when it comes to these team fights, definitely don't knock him down there either because of how strong this Lulu also is. Has 2 completed items, has the Chemtech Putrefier just to cut down on some of the healing coming in from a lot of these targets, right? You have a Gwen, you have a Xin, and you also have a Cassio. All 3 champions definitely heal a lot here. So I love this build coming in from the Lulu, and well, you're going to be able to really empower both the Olaf and the Viego with this Lulu pick.
Exactly. That overgrowth has been so crucial. And we've seen twice in these team fights that Liyab has mopped the floor with Boom Esports with, is that they just send Dodoy in onto Ruby, and there's nothing he can do. He can't crowd control Dodoy. Dodoy just kills him instantly. And then the rest of it, it's just a mop-up coming in from Kanji. So Liyab not only having a great macro sense, but I think they've been dealing with these team fights exactly the way that you should play them. Very, very cool stuff from Liyab. Never expected this from the team, but they have definitely gotten me to believe a little bit more. Liyab is going to do a straight push down mid. That tower was already pretty low, so not a huge loss for Boom Esports, and they're going to change up their tactics right here. Actually going to get a bit of a split push for Ruby in the top side as he does take down a tower, and it looks like Liyab will have to respond by going over there. Ruby should be perfectly safe though, and Liyab going to turn around and try to get a death corner going, but completely spotted by Boom Esports. This could be a way for Boom Esports to get back into the game as they still do not find that ward. Godoy poking in just a little bit more. Looks like this could potentially be Rocky teleporting into this spot if he so chooses to, but so far Liyab a little bit too poop for that to happen. And yeah, Liyab just, they don't find the bait.
Yeah, and all eyes are on this next dragon that's coming up in 4 minutes. Liyab could try and force a play a little bit earlier onto the Baron, but all signs point like this is the safest play here for Liyab. You're going to force that next Mountain Dragon for Mountain Soul, and Boom, they have no other choice but to try and contest. And here's the other thing. I love this build coming in from the Kalista. Dawn going for the Ginsu's Rage Blade, which is not exactly standard on Kalista, but when it's all about getting that first reset for Viego, you just want maximum single target damage, and Ginsu's provides just that.
Especially compared to something like the Runan's Hurricane, you know, bursting down one target, definitely more important in this situation. Love the read there, and we can see Liyab actually setting up for both objectives at the same time, you know, making sure that they have a firm control over Baron, that Boom Esports can't trade their way back into the game. However, I will say Boom Esports, they really aren't that far behind percentage-wise compared to where they were 10 minutes ago. It's only a 4,000 gold lead. The lead has not really been accentuated here by Liyab. And Boom Esports has found their way to most of their second item spike. So they definitely still have a fighting chance here. No, this is not going to... I'm not going to be a pure cheerleader for Liyab. I do want to see them pull something out, but we have to be reasonable. We have to be rational. And Boom Esports, you know, they definitely have a way back into this game, but I think they need to execute on their comp a little bit better. Ruby needs to pick his spots. He can't be the first one going down that quickly in team fights anymore. And we'll see how they can sort of execute around this Baron.
Yeah, and the big issue now here for Boom is the fact that they don't really have a whole lot of peel tools to make sure the Cassio or the Ezreal stays alive. It's really all up to themselves. Yes, the Zen can help out just a little bit, but what can you do against this Olaf? Yes, late game Olaf, he's not going to be that useful because you just have that much damage onto an Ezreal and a Cassio that you just shred through him before he actually gets to touch your backline. But at this stage in the game, full 2 items with the stairs, he's definitely going to be able to reach your backline. So they have to find a way to make sure they're able to get some chip damage onto him before the fight starts, or they have to have some sort of interrupt onto the backline to prevent follow-up from coming through. And everything is just coming down to this next dragon that's coming up in 70 seconds. So getting as many items as you can, and right now we see the completed Wit's End onto Dawn. He knows what the real threats are, and that's the Gwen and the Cassio.
Almost feels like you have to have a pop-off performance from Rocky here to swing this one back. Gwen, if given alone time with Dawn, can still make mincemeat of Kalista. Let's see if he can find the angle right here. It is going to be both objectives up at the same time. Liyab should honestly be pretty happy with both. I think Boom Esports are the ones that are on the back foot. They have to pick what's given to them. Liyab posturing super aggressively in this mid lane. Let's just start out with the engage. We have Ruby with the brush snake play on the right side, and Kanji still split pushing, so Liyab don't have the numbers here, but they're still going to walk in regardless, and the engage is going to be called by Boom Esports. TP coming into the back. They still have not found a kill just yet, and Kanji has joined the fight. Aiden still makes it out alive. Finally, they do get Aiden, and Kanji calls. Boom Esports keep their formation and take the win. They're going to be hunting down on this first mid lane tower and transitioning over directly towards Baron. Definitely didn't expect that play from Liyab, and Wako still wants some more. He flashes aggressively, doesn't find the kill, but does force out the flash from Dawn once again. Liyab actually going for the soul right now as Boom Esports are
They're all in now.
Baron. Ooh, Boom Esports could end up taking both right here. Oh, Dojoy does get the smite down, so that will be the soul, but the Baron traded on the other side. Wako going forward. He's going mad. He's going crazy. He's got 1 kill already. There's nowhere for Dawn to go.
Oh, no.
Wako picks that one up, and Xyliath has to flash out. And now Boom Esports has the gold lead.
Boom Esports, they trade soul for that Baron, and you know, yes, the gold lead is there for Boom, but Liyab have Mountain Soul. This isn't the worst of trades. The only issue was that fight leading up to that dragon, as we are going to see the replay, and it's really just the fact that they get a little bit too excited. They don't have the telebreak coming through. It comes really, really late, and by the time that Kanji shows up, they just don't have quite enough damage to get that first reset, and they've used so many cooldowns to keep Dojoy alive. They can't keep Kanji alive himself, and that's where things fell apart. So unfortunately, they don't get the team fight, but they do get the Mountain Soul. So when it comes to fights, they still stand a really good chance, because that actually keeps this Olaf very, very relevant, because he gets a lot more tank stats to make sure that he survives entering that backline.
That was a really odd macro play from Liyab. I feel like if Boom Esports is doing that, you just full turn on Baron. Like you fight on your turf. Like you don't try to face check 4v5 into Boom Esports. So a kind of a questionable decision right there. I feel like you could tell that Liyab were like, oh, this is definitely not the right play. As soon as they dropped the ward, they were like, yeah, let's try to get out of here. Let's full retreat. So that was a bit of a head scratcher, and that's going to cost them dearly. We do have to mention that champions like Kalista do not do very well post 30 minutes.
Yeah, and now you've kind of hit that big wall, right, for Liyab's composition, where Olaf stops being as relevant as a champion. The Kalista is a lot less relevant as well, and over on the other side you have a Cassio, you have an Ezreal. These champions, now that they have their third item, they're just increasingly terrifying. And over on the side of Liyab, it's really just all down to Kanji, and it's Kanji and friends basically here, as they're going to try and defend this inhib tower.
Liyab is going to lose their inhibitor tower, but they will stay here. It is a potential 4v5, but
double cannon.
Ruby has a great angle right here. It's for the Petrifying Gaze, and they will escort 2 empowered canyons directly onto this inhibitor while Rocky is still split pushing. Liyab are forced to make a move right here. They decide to go onto the right side, but it's a split decision. They don't get anyone just yet. Wako on the back line with that Frozen Heart is going to stay alive. And the Crescent Guard there too, but Wako falls down.
Wait,
oh, they still get the kill. Heartbreaker. Kanji is going in. He's going mad. Can he chase up the kills? Ruby goes down. Now gets the reset. He's going for more. Boom Esports down to 2 targets. Another Heartbreaker strike. He misses the stun, but he is going to be able to catch up onto Pop. There's nowhere for this Leona to go. Is this the potential finish right here? Boom Esports, they get another one. Kanji is the hero that they need. They're going to try to find the Xin Zhao. Not going to get it just yet, but an open path to the bot lane tower. Kanji reset city.
And while they aren't going to be able to end the game off of that, that's still a massive win. It comes from this big hook coming in from Felia, being able to find Alex and burn that cooldown. And yes, Dojoy dies, but he trades his life 1-for-1 for a massive carry. And if you're talking about value, you take that Olaf trade for one of those backline carries every single day of the week at this point in the game. And with that, that gets that first reset for Kanji and Dawn, and they're off to the races. They're able to finish off and clean up the fight afterwards. They get themselves that bot tier 2, and This game's back wide open, Clement.
I don't care what anyone says. This has been the best game of PCS so far. The most entertainment I have gotten
Yeah,
from
you better
viewing a
believe it.
PCS game.
Oh.
The back and forth, Kanji popping off on a new position. That was all great. I can't believe Wako actually died to the last tick of the red smite right there. That was,
Yeah.
was a little bit unfortunate for him. And on the other side, I don't feel like Gwen has the same effect. You know, even though Dodoi is a jungler, he does have the Lulu buff. So Gwen not able to trade, while Dodoi does finish up on the AD carry. And now we're going to have an Elder Dragon, Boom Esports, already in a superior position for short triple pink wards across this. And Don trying to find an engage. Kanji's going to pop that Harrowed Path over. And Ruby doesn't take any damage whatsoever. Miasma goes down. We are going to have a bit of a fight. But here comes Aiden into the mid lane. Pop's going to go back as well. Ruby almost dead once again. But Kanji might go first. He falls and gives the reset over where. And that's going to be the heals coming in. Alex trying to do the best he can. And Wako is untouched. He's going to be cleaning a house right here. Dodo is still going onto the front line. They do find the kills. But Wako is going to clean house. Rocky survives as well. And now Xylia, the sole surviving member, has to turn tails and run. Massive team fight coming out from Boom Esports, and Wako stays alive for the Elder Dragon.
They managed to capitalize and find Ruby at the start of the fight, but because of that, Xania's Ruby just stays alive ever so much longer, and that means they aren't able to burst through, get that first reset. And the fact that Wako is just untouched the entire fight means that he just gets so much value as he turns that fight around. And I thought it was a major blunder because Ruby, he throws a miasma right here, right? That means they can't prevent the engage coming in from Aiden and Dawn. So they just immediately pull the trigger. This is great calling from Liyab, but then they're stuck here. And against Ruby, they don't get that first reset, and Rocky goes to town, putting down so much damage. And that means Wako, he also gets that extra space. With that extra space, free reign from the Ezreal, he also just dumps so much damage as well.
I love the decision making from Ruby right there. He's like, there's 4 members of Liyab on my left, and there's Kanji on my right. I'm definitely ulting Kanji. Kanji has to go. And I think that ended up being the right decision. They take Diego out of the fight almost immediately and are able to just secure the win after that. Boom Esports is going to have a full revive and get 2 major objectives. They are up in gold, and Liyab, despite having a great pre-30-minute game, they are now on the ropes. Can Kanji do it again in this base defense? A lot of the summoners are not present while Ruby has held on to his flash. Boom Esports are looking like they might just be going for the final push, trying to get maximum value out of this Elder Dragon. The inhibitors are going to be stripped away. And are Boom Esports going to go any further? Doesn't look like it. They're actually backing off a little here. Just waiting for the minion wave. Finally, Rocky is going to come back in. And we still have a little bit on that Elder Dragon, I believe. And Boom Esports, they're running out of minions at this point. Really well done by Liyab. But the engage, well, actually slightly disengage coming out from Alex. I thought he was going to take that one, but decides better against it. And Elder. Now Boom Esports, they are going in. Elder, like you mentioned, almost about to expire right here. It's almost going down. It's almost down. It's down. And now we have Liyab going in onto the fight. But oh, Elder is still there. They get the first kill. They get the second kill. And Xylia has to turn away, running. Rocky on a killing spree at this point. And Liyab fought the good fight. But at the end, Boom Esports come out with a very, very sweaty victory. Last 2 team fights going the way of Boom Esports. Rocky, you can tell that he's very happy about that one. Getting some shouts out while Wako remains as stoic as ever.
Oh my lord. What a valiant effort coming in from the side of Liyab, but it just wasn't enough to overcome that compositional difference in the one bad fight they had around that Soul Dragon right before then. That ends up just tossing too much of the gold lead back over to Boom, and Boom's able to really outscale with that composition that they had.
My disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined. This has been a bit of a letdown. I feel like Liyab are inching ever closer to that victory. We've seen in all these games, the early game has gotten better and better. The mid-game decision-making mistakes are fewer and fewer, but they always have that huge throw. They always have that one massive throw. It's like, we're 4v5, we can face check this. And they instantly get punished. I was like, I honestly feel like if that play hadn't happened, Liyab could have rolled on to their first victory. But we have to commend Boom Esports. They did everything they could from a bad spot to claw back that victory. And they did catch Liyab with their pants down. They honestly just outplayed in terms of the objectives.
Yeah, and I mean, the early game was just such a brilliant start for the side of Liyab. They had all the objectives, and they were able to get so much of a lead just all across the map. The issue was just that one fight, right? But the improvements there, and Liyab have shown that they can punish you in the early game. Now it's just a matter of being able to fully snowball that all the way to a Nexus. We'll have to wait just a little bit longer, but I feel like we're going to be waiting not as much time as round number 2. I'm going to call it here. It's going to happen it's going to happen next week. It's going to happen next week.
It's going to happen next week? All right. I'll check the schedule later to see which game that we're going to
I don't know who they're playing, but
I've already said in chat, I think Liyab is not going to finish below Alpha Esports this season. I don't see that happening. I've already said that in chat. You know, Alpha Esports were 4 games ahead of them in spring, but I don't think it's going to be that one-sided between these two teams this time around. My heart is still bleeding. My heart definitely is still bleeding. Congratulations to Boom Esports. That's well fought. We're still waiting for the end game graphics to pop up, but I do want to bring you into a discussion. You know, are you sold on Ruby's champion pool just yet? FaZe Rush Cassiopeia. Meta answer? Yes, no?
He's definitely got a unique pool here, and I mean, in that game, with all his early game mistakes, because the fact that he was Cassiopeia, he got maximum value at the end of the game. So you know what? If they pick for scaling, I can see them really drag games out to that 30-minute mark where he does become relevant. So I'm not as against it as perhaps a more volatile team like a Liyab or Alpha, where they just really struggle to get to that point sometimes.
I can see the logic here. Like, honestly, the changes to FaZe Rush are only in the early game anyway. That was enough to sideline most mages, but hey, if you get a level 18, there actually is no difference. You're still as strong as you are before, so you know, maybe that is why Ruby is going for this. We did see a pretty late game scaling team composition for them as well, so I think you bring up really valid points on how Boom Esports are building these compositions. We will take a look at this gold graph, and what a roller coaster it has.
That's an LPL graph.
Yeah, it definitely feels like one of those IG games where the Shy is ahead early, and then they have some terrible throws over the game. Up 4,000 gold, and they pretty much threw it in one team fight. So,
yeah,
kind of the story of the game for Liyab, and the story of the split, to be exact. Meanwhile, the MVP does go to Wako. A lot of damage and 83% kill participation. Love that Ezreal build going for the Frozen Heart against Viego in the late game, making sure he stays safe. He was a key member in those late game team fights where he could keep himself alive and then clean up when Ruby was dying really early on.
Yeah, and the big thing here was also because of the Lulu mid, they were lacking a lot of magic damage, right? So that means you can just itemize fully into armor and defensive stats after a certain point. So Wako just really not a whole lot of threat onto him at the late stages of the game. You saw the one kill where Olaf traded 1-for-1. He had to invest a lot into it, right? Both, I believe, everything thrown onto him from the Lulu, and then he also has to invest flash. So Wako does his job perfectly and puts himself in a situation where he can clean up the fights afterwards.
Well done by Wako, but that's going to be all for our game number 1. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be back straight into regular PCS action after these short messages.